most chefs are going to be like, hey, how much butter and cream can I fit in this pot? It can be very tempting to have these bad things, but once you realize how bad they are for you, you just have to really, understand that, is it really worth it, right? So. Folks, how are we doing today? Good? Yeah. Thanks for coming in today, folks. My name is Vince. I'm the executive chef here at Pritikin. Hopefully you've been enjoying yourself this week. Folks, if you see what I have going on here is about 5 quarts of low sodium chicken broth. Now, some people might say unsalted should be better, right? And usually it is. But as long as it's about 150 milligrams of sodium per cup, that's kind of what you're looking for or less. Now, this one here happens to be what it says low sodium. And it's 115, so that's even better, right? 115 is perfect. There's a brand called Kitchen Basics that makes an unsalted stock. It's actually a little bit higher. So don't always assume that just because it says unsalted, just read the label, right? Less is better. Now, here I like to use this particular brand. I think it has a really strong, nice flavor. What I'm gonna do is add some flavor into this broth to intensify that. Here I have some fresh thyme. What I did was simply take some butcher's twine and I wrapped it around this fresh thyme, and this way all these leaves will boil off the stems and I'll pull the stems out at the end. All right, I'm going to add some bay leaves in here as well. These are just dry bay leaves. I like to use these nice big broad bay leaves, that way they're easy to find when you're ready to pull this back out. You don't want to serve the bay leaves in anybody's soup. We're also going to use some chicken breast tenderloins in here as well. Now, we like to use the chicken breast tenderloin, which is even going to be more tender than the actual breast. If you want to use that or just use the breast, the main thing is you want to use the white meat poultry here. So don't use the dark meat ideally. You do not want to. We stick to using the breast here. Now, the benefit of using the tenderloin, like I said, is it is more tender, but also usually it's a good portion. Usually about 2 tenderloins is a good size that you would serve here. Sometimes you might serve 3 because they may just be small. Usually we try to go for about 4 ounces of cooked animal protein in a day. If you want to serve that meat option, we try to prefer more fish than actual meat. But if you want to have that meat option, chicken is a good option, or turkey as well. So all that is going in there. We're poaching this chicken here today. And poaching is probably one of the most boring ways to cook a piece of meat, but it's an ideal way to cook it for this soup. So what you're looking for is the texture of the meat. That's going to be really nice and tender. This is going to cook in here as the whole tenderloin, and we're going to poach it, pull it back out, and then we'll chop it up, which should give it a nice, just more tender texture when it goes in there. If you chop it up in small pieces and then put it in here raw, you're going to have a more rubbery pieces of chicken, and they'll kind of be more tough. So let's go ahead over here and saute some vegetables. If I had more time, I would have just done this all in one pot. But I'm going to go ahead and saute some aromatic vegetables over here, and then we'll kind of build this all back together. So we're going to first off start off with some onions. I have some big old yellow onions over here that we're going to chop up and put into this skillet over here. Now, this is a great pan because it's a very versatile pan. We're using a pan that has 11-inch flat diameter at the bottom, so you can fit a lot of vegetables in here. You can sear off a good amount of meats in here, or something, salmons or chicken, whatever it may be. So you can just do a lot of things with this particular pan. I always like to point that out. As opposed to a pan that has a sloped edge, you lose some of that surface area, and you won't be able to fit as much. So what we're doing here with this yellow onion is we're cutting the top and the bottom off like this here. We're going to cut a little cut down the side like this here, and then pull that first layer of onion right off. The best way not to cry when you're doing an onion, well, you have someone else do it for you. That's probably the best way. But if that's not an option, what you can do is simply just go ahead and try to do it fast, and try to just develop better knife skills to do this fast. So again, cut the top and the bottom off. I like to cut the root completely out. It's going to be easier to cut this up. And if you want to cut this in half, and you can go ahead and pull each layer off. Again, cutting it just a little slit down the side allows you to pull this layer off all in one shot. Now I have the onion peeled. So what we're going to do here is we're going to cut this onion in half like this here. And we're going to position my fingers like this. I'm going to put my fingertips right down on the onion. I'm going to press down, and then I'm going to use my knuckle here, just like this one knuckle here, mainly to kind of stick out to where it's using that as a kind of a guide where the knife is going to actually be chopping in at. I'll go and have it this way, turn it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it to where it's going this way here, kind of turning it as I'm going here and having this nice kind of consistent diced onion here. Now this happens so quickly, I'll show you one more time how I did this here. If you like a lot of the flavor of the onion, but not a big chunks of onion, this is a great way to get this. Slice it again like this here. Try to keep it all together. Start the knife kind of flat, and we'll kind of curve it around as we go in here. And this way you'll have a nice consistent onion here. Now, if you want to use a chef knife, like I was sharpening, if anybody came in here in the beginning, a chef knife is a great knife, right? But the problem is that you're always going to have to keep it sharp, and you'll find that things like this onion will constantly stick to your blade as you're pulling the knife back out, and then you're constantly kind of piecing it back together. So I like to use this particular knife here. This is an offset serrated knife, and this, it's just a good multi-functionality that you can go ahead and chop a lot of vegetables with it, and not be maintaining the edge of the knife on a regular basis like you would with a regular chef knife. So, and also it doesn't stick to the onion, so it's a win-win. So I think we have enough onion here. These are 2 big yellow onions. Well, we're making a lot of soup, but this is an 18-quart pot that we're using here. We might not fill it up all the way, but we're making a lot, which is what I would encourage people to do. When I make this soup in my house, which is something I will do about every other month or so, because I will freeze it. I'll make it in a big batch, and I'll simply freeze it when I want to have it again. Portion out in small containers. This way, when you have it again, pull it from the freezer. You can, put it in a small pot on low and reheat it that way, or you can go ahead and put it in a microwave. So that pan's pretty hot, but we're putting a lot of things in here. They're going to go and start cooling it down. So here I have onions going in there right away. But also I'm putting the lid over there. So I'm putting the lid over the onion. It has nowhere to have that moisture escape out of. It's going to go to the lid, it's going to condensate, it'll drip back down, and it's going to create that environment you're looking for to actually brown these onions evenly. If I can get these pair of tongs out here, we're going to give this a quick stir. That was PAM. This is this high heat PAM. This is a commercial canister, but you're going to usually see this sold as grilling PAM at a grocery store, kind of as an equal alternative. And that's a high heat PAM, which means I can get the pan very hot. The onions are already browning in here, right? And you already see the lid condensating. So that's what you're looking for here. That kind of sweet spot where if you have too much water in here, you're not going to brown anything. You're just going to be stewing or steaming. If you don't have any moisture or that kind of environment, you'll be kind of unevenly burning the onions. Yes? I actually am at a medium high. Yes, I am. Yep. But the oil came from the pan. PAM. I mean, that's it. It's just controlling the overall intake of it by using that very small bit of that spray. And that's it. And again, it's just a high heat PAM. This says baking PAM, but you'll see, again, look at this moisture just dripping off the lid now. All right, let's speed this along and do the bell pepper. When I'm doing the pepper, let me move these strawberries over here so we can see this a little better. I'm going to use some red bell pepper, lay it on its side and kind of cut around the center like this here. And then I have nothing but the bottom left and the seed. We're going to use some poblano pepper here also. If you like to use green bell pepper as the alternative, you certainly can. If you want to use yellow bell pepper or just use some more red, the poblano does have some heat to it. So if you want to use that or not, it's really up to you. When I'm chopping up this pepper, I'm putting the tip of the knife down on the board and I'm pushing the knife forward, and I'm just repeating this as I'm going down the line here, going the opposite way, and then getting it diced up. We're going to go back and stir up this onion one more time. Make sure it's not burning. It's good. By the time I'm ready to add this pepper, that onion should be ready for it. So, and basically what I'm looking for is where that onion was no longer, at least about maybe 2 minutes in there, no longer completely raw. I don't want the onion to be fully cooked, but I would intentionally add the peppers a little bit after letting the onion cook by itself, just so I can get that onion a little bit more brown overall. We're also going to add some celery here. Now, the poblano, again, I did say to have some heat. And if you cannot tolerate any heat, this is something that you're going to look at as probably, again, one step above being bell pepper. It's not like a jalapeno by any means. So if you think you can't tolerate any heat, try using poblanos or even a Cubanelle pepper. They're very, very mild.
What's the name of that knife again you're using?
Offset, serrated knife. If you look at this shape of it, right? most knives, serrated knives are not shaped where this is. It curves like this, so you can rock it, right? That's a big difference, and it really helps on just how effective the tool is. If this wasn't curved, I wouldn't be able to rock the knife like I'm doing right now, as if it was a chef knife, essentially. So it's a very useful tool. I always love just pointing out, how much I find this effective. All right, so we'll put the bell pepper in here next. We're going to give this a quick saute with the onions, and we'll put the celery in here as well. All right. We'll see where that chicken's at. I think it's probably ready to come out. We call this the lacrosse stick in the back. I mean, maybe like 5 minutes. It really doesn't take long at all, right? And it did come to a boil, and truly poaching is not, wouldn't have let it come to a boil like it did, but we're not looking at cooking this too long. I'm looking just to get it cooked and where it's good now. And what I'm looking for is just where it's cooked, so I can let it cool down and then chop it up in small pieces, and which will leave me a much more, just tender texture to the overall chicken. Now, if you want to, alternatively, you could use like a roasted chicken. I would not suggest buying like roasted chicken from the grocery store because they're going to salt the heck out of it. But perhaps roasting your own chicken. If you buy a bone-in, skin-on breast, you can roast that yourself. You ideally would want to discard the skin after the fact because the skin is not going to be a healthy part to eat. But by roasting it with the skin on, it would certainly keep a lot more moisture and that more tender texture that you're looking for by pulling it off the bone and chopping it up that way, as opposed to if you want to do it like this. So this is kind of something you just kind of plan ahead. What do you want to do? We're just pulling all these pieces out. We're going to let this cool down. Get that bay leaf back in there. All right, make sure we don't have any stragglers left in there. Looks like I got one. Okay, the benefit of using something like a bamboo bowl is that they allow things to cool down and they can take the heat, right? These are something that can allow the heat to escape, as opposed to like a stainless steel bowl. It's just going to allow it to, I'll put it back here. What it's going to do is just kind of hold the heat. So we'll go back to this in a moment. I'm going to go here and stir this up once again. And so far, we've been cooking this for about maybe 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more. So we're going to go on adding the celery in here next. So what I'm going to do with the celery is cut it long ways like this here. So take this and just run this right in half. You might have some celery stalks that don't really need to be cut like this. It's really up to you. I mean, if you want to have like longer or wider pieces in here, sometimes the celery stalks are much more narrow or more wide. It's really up to you what you want to do with this. We're just going to run this a couple times the opposite way, and we'll chop this up fine. I think that's good right there. So again, tip the knife down, push forward, push forward, push forward. Many people do this, right? When they chop things up, they do this. They pull the knife. They pull the knife, and you're going to be here all day chopping celery. So again, push the knife forward when you're chopping this up, and it's going to be much easier to do and much more effective to get this done faster. I have a time frame that I have to be done this class in, so I can't be here all day chopping vegetables up here. So any faster way to get this done, I always have to point out. Almost went in there. And that's fine too. I mean, we're going to saute this a little bit longer. That's currently cranked up on high right now. I'm going to add the garlic in here now as well. This is minced garlic. I don't buy pre-minced garlic, but what I do buy is pre-peeled garlic. And pre-peeled garlic is great, easy, time saver to have because what's going to happen is you're going to find that pre-minced garlic sits on the dry shelf. It's shelf stable until you open it up. Then it's but the quality not very good. Sometimes it's sitting in oil. Even if it's not sitting in oil, it's not very good quality. So, but buy pre-peeled garlic. Every grocery store will sell this, and the benefit is that you go home, put it into a food processor, not a blender, but a food processor. I don't have one in here, but a food processor. And then just have minced garlic. And what I would do is buy 3 bags of it. Every grocery store sells pre-peeled cloves of garlic in the refrigerated, kind of salad section, and you'll find that putting it in the food processor. You have a bunch of minced garlic on hand. What you can go home and do, we'll put this in the pan before we forget, is just go ahead and put it in small little Ziploc bags. I like to use little small snack bags and freeze that minced garlic for whenever I want to use it again. Now I have it ready to go. I pull the minced garlic from the freezer. I break a little piece off of out of the bag. I put it into the pan, the pot, whatever, and it's going to defrost pretty quickly. All right, so we're going to add maybe 1 or 2 more celery stalks in here, just to get a little bit more celery. I would just, if you want to roast it, you can roast it as well. I was just talking about mincing garlic. But if you want to roast it, I would say, for like our salad bar, we take that whole peeled garlic and we roast it in the oven. What we'll do is we'll put a little bit of water on the pan, and that way it kind of helps steam it up a little bit as it's roasting, which kind of gives it a little bit more moisture and helps it cook more evenly, essentially. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit more celery in here. Now, the carrot, probably the thing most people have said, this guy should have added the carrot first. It's never going to cook in time now. I'm going to show you an easy way to cut carrot up, and it'll cook in no time at all. Let's go and add some more aromatics into this pot. Here I have some rosemary and I have some oregano. Now with this, I'm going to take the rosemary and pull the leaves down just like this here. This is a very tedious thing to do if you're using the thyme, which is why we put the butcher's twine around it, because I'd be here all day doing that alone with all these little small sprigs of thyme. I don't like to do that, though, with rosemary because these leaves are much bigger and broader, and you want to chop these up. These would fall off if I just put the whole sprig in there and pull the stem out later, but the leaf itself is very, very big and wide. So just pull it off the stem, and we're going to put this in here just like this here. And that's enough rosemary here. Now, we're also going to use some fresh oregano here as well. Again, same technique, just pulling down like this here. Just grabbing maybe 1 or 2 at a time and making sure you're getting just the leaf and no stem coming with it. And if you want to use the dry counterpart, usually that's going to be, if the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of fresh oregano, you may want to use 1 tablespoon of dry oregano. That's kind of the how you can kind of translate dry to fresh. But in some recipes, like something like this here, I'm really looking for like that fresher outcome, and you're going to get that with using the fresh herb here. In my opinion, it just works much better. Because this is something you really want to have really strong, kind of bold flavor in, and the fresh oregano, fresh thyme, fresh rosemary. If you ever buy poultry seasoning in like a little small thing, make sure you don't get one that has any added salt to it, because a lot of them do. But that's basically the flavors that are in there. Oregano, rosemary, and thyme. All right, so here.
You like all that Mrs. Dash?
Mrs. Dash is great. Yeah, it's a no salt seasoning, has lots of dehydrated vegetable flakes in there. There's different variations of it, from a Southwest version to a mesquite kind of, lemon version, all different types of ones. All right, we're going to keep this going until this actually gets a little bit of some caramelization to these vegetables. We have a lot of heat escaping out of them, a lot of moisture. So we're going to have to kind of fight that. This is on the highest side it can go. We're going to chop this up. Now, what's this knife not very useful for? I'll show you. Chopping up herbs. Because you're going to find that you rather want to use a straight edge knife. By having all those little gaps in there, when I'm doing the motion where I'm just going up and down like I'm doing here now, I would have a little gap between each and every tooth of the blade. So you're better off using this style of knife. But the more often that I use the serrated one, the less often I have to chop or sharpen this one, because I just wouldn't be using it as often. So, just for me, I tell people, you don't have to invest in a bunch of different knives. All right. They forgot something in the oven. All right. I smelled something. I said, I'm not burning anything. Something's burning. Anyway, we had an oven down, so they were cooking something in here, and I think they forgot to come back in it because we started our class. So anyway. Okay, so here we're having some fresh oregano, fresh rosemary, chopping it very fine. All right. And put this all right into the pot. Now, what else we're going to put in here? Let's go ahead and put some more things. We're going to add some low sodium Worcestershire sauce. This is something we do use here in small amounts. In a good amount here because we're making a lot of it, right? But this is something that's even lower in sodium than soy sauce. So if you're thinking that it's just equally as high, we do use soy sauce here too, but in small amounts as well. This is our green grotto sauce. This is a jalapeno hot sauce that we make in-house here. This is a salt-free lemon pepper. The green grotto sauce is something you can buy from Pritikin Foods as well, but it's not hard to make. I always tell people, you know, hey, look, you chop a bunch of fresh jalapenos, put some apple cider vinegar in the pot, a little bit of garlic. You're gonna put some scallions. You're gonna put some apple cider vinegar, apple juice concentrate, and you're also gonna go ahead and put some. They're coming in here for their potatoes that they were burning in. She distracted me. Jalapenos, apple cider vinegar, garlic, scallions, and a little bit of apple juice concentrate. So it's not hard to make. All right, so let's go ahead and let these caramelize a little bit more. We'll deglaze this with some white wine. If you want to use a good white wine, you should use a good white wine. You know, use something you want to drink. If it didn't taste good to drink, why is it going to taste good to flavor your food with, right? We're not going to use a lot of wine to deglaze this, but we're going to put some. We're going to add the orzo in here now. This is a whole wheat orzo. The company who makes this product is Delalo. Take a look at these brands we have on the back here. Delalo is one of those brands. This is the whole wheat pasta that we use here. From the fusilli to the farfalle pasta to the orzo pasta, you know, this company makes about 10 different versions of whole wheat pasta, which is unique because most companies only make, you know, like the basic penne, and that's usually it. You know, this company makes a good amount of variety. And orzo being one of those varieties that are kind of somewhat hard to find as the whole wheat version. All right, so pour that in here. We'll let that cook. And it can be hard to gauge for some people how much, you might say, oh, I can't even see the orzo. I don't think I put enough. Let me put another bag. And now you put too much orzo, I promise you. Right? This is more than enough. You won't barely see it swelling up until it starts cooking in here for a little bit longer. Let's go back here. We'll check this once again. We'll see where it's at. I think we're almost there. A little bit longer. Let's do the carrot. We'll get that in here as well. Or at least start chopping up the chicken as well. All right, so for the chicken, we're going to put it right back on this cutting board, and we'll start chopping it in smaller pieces, and then it's going back into the pot. I will keep stirring up that pot because I do have that on high, and I have that orzo in there now. Now we're going to add some lemon juice in here also. I'm going to take this here. I'm going to take the rest of that liquid out.
Am I going to save the liquid?
I am. I'm putting it back in the pot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Don't worry. Okay. All right, so we'll take this here, and we'll put these on our board here. And what we're going to do is just basically just chop them up in just smaller little sections here. You might want to just go ahead and cut it in half like this, and then cut it down into smaller little pieces here. There's really no rhyme or reason, just basically cutting it in smaller chunks at this stage here. But again, if you cut this up in these small pieces when it was raw and put those raw little chunks into your pot, they would just really toughen up like little rubbery pieces. They would eventually soften up, but it's going to take a long time for that to really happen. It'll just be kind of more tough. So kind of cutting it up after the fact, you're just exposing that kind of more tender surface area of the chicken. And this is going to go right back into there. So this is going to make a good amount of soup here. Again, probably about, for this amount we're making here today, about, let's say 20 servings of soup. So you might only have about 2 ounces of actual chicken going into each of those servings, you know, even less. So it's not something to be, you know, considering as your whole animal protein intake for the day, depending on how much chicken you're putting into your serving. But, you know, you're also putting lots of vegetables in here. And of course, you want to put even more vegetables, maybe different kinds of other vegetables in here. Maybe you want to put fennel in here. You know, fennel would add a really intense kind of licorice flavor. And for some people, that could be a big turnoff. But some people are going to say, that's great. Let me show you what we're looking like so far here. Put this out of the way. And we're going to deglaze this. Now I could have let this go a little bit longer here, right? But you're looking for basically that kind of little film developing on the pan. You know, any darker than that, you're going to get it more kind of, you know, burnt. So we'll deglaze this now with some wine. And deglazing just means kind of pulling off all those little kind of bits and pieces of, you know, caramelized onion, garlic, ginger, whatever you're putting into the pan there. We didn't put ginger, but you could put ginger too. All right. Give that another quick stir. We'll go back here and we'll chop up a little bit more of this chicken. And we may not even use all this chicken here today. This is about 2 pounds of chicken that we started off here with. So, all right. Hopefully everyone's enjoying themselves here. Hopefully the dinner was great last night. I think we had the cedar plank salmon last night. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that. Hopefully nobody ate the wood. We get somebody every week. I thought this was toast. So we don't. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll chop this up, the rest of this chicken. We'll get this back into the pot, and we'll be on our way here. Now, folks, right after this, we're going to make a chilled strawberry ginger soup. So if you look at the recipe for the next one, you're looking at it, probably scratch your head, say, this kind of looks like a smoothie. Oh, it is. It is a smoothie. And if I serve it to you as a smoothie, you're going to want twice as much of it and drink it twice as fast. So serving it as a soup, you're going to serve it in a bowl with a spoon. You're going to drink it a little bit slow, hopefully, and in this way, you don't overconsume it and drink your calories. So, these are things that you might see us serve here. So you see us serve maybe like a banana soup with grapes or a honeydew soup or something like that. Essentially these are smoothies, but how you serve it to them can kind of alter how much you're going to actually serve yourself. Okay. So that chicken's going back in here now. I kind of forgot about this, and this is deglazed. This reduced out too much, so we'll put a little bit more wine in here. We'll get all that. We don't have much left. And that's like Chardonnay that I was using today, I believe. So, just don't use like Rieslings and Moscatos. They're going to be naturally higher in sugar. So, if you're going to use wine, don't use those, ideally. Okay. So we'll turn this burner off over there. All right, and the carrots. We still need to put the carrots. And I still need to put some lemon juice in there. But we were making progress here. And we'll maybe put just a little bit more chicken in here. We'll see. A couple more pieces. All right. So what we're also going to do here is take a tool that I like to use. This tool that I'm going to show you in just a second to do the carrots is from a company called Titan. And Titan makes a little set of tools. And one of them looks like a peeler, because it's a peeler. And the other one looks like a peeler too, but it's not a peeler. It looks like it, but there's little teeth on the tool. And what it does is, as you're doing the motion, as if you're peeling the carrot, it rips off little strips of carrot. So it's very effective in that sense. And I'll show you right now how to get this chicken into the pot. Okay. So let me show you here right now. So this is the peeler, and you can just easily peel whatever vegetable you want to do. But also, this peeler is great for doing things that aren't as common to do with a peeler. Things even like a mango. You can peel a mango with this. Actually pretty effective, right? You can peel butternut squash with this tool. You might have to go a little deeper for some things, but it just naturally digs a little deeper into the vegetable. So it's very effective for some things. And we'll try not to make such a mess here. But whatever you want to use the next one for, it really works pretty good for anything that's kind of shaped like a carrot. I'll show you in 1 second what I'm talking about. This peeler is good for whatever thing you would normally use a peeler for, but this is mainly useful for things like daikon radish or like parsnips or cucumbers. Things that are like long and skinny is what it's going to work best for. So let me show you right now what I'm talking about. So we'll cut the ends off here real quick. Take this out of the way. All right, and as I'm doing the motion, as if I was still peeling the carrot, it's just ripping off these little julienne strips of carrot, which what I'm going to do afterwards is line these up as best as possible and then go the opposite way. We do sound effects here. We're chopping these up. In my head, I'm always doing sound effects. All right, so we'll get this up a little bit more here. And this is going to be great for sushi rolls, for stir fries, for salads, whatever you want to use this for as it is. But if you want to do like little small, little brunoise pieces of carrot, little small diced fine pieces of carrot, this is going to get that done. For veggie burgers, for crab cakes, for a soup that you want just really fine diced carrot in, or maybe just for time purposes didn't allow you to get to the carrot until this stage of the game here. That's why we're adding it right now. We'll add it, if I get this chopped up, we're going to add it here more towards the end. I mean, we only have 15 more minutes to get this carrot cooked. So we'll cut it up small like this here. I'll show you right now. We'll line this up. Titan, T-I-T-A-N. You put that on Amazon, it'll come right up. It's a great, effective thing to have in your kitchen. All right, I'm going to keep going back here and stirring this up here as I told you I would, because that orzo, at this stage, I wouldn't just have it on high the entire time. I would have returned it to a boil, which is where it's at now, and then I would have lowered it to a simmer. But A-N, Titan, T-I-T-A-N. All right. Oh, the burner was still hot. Okay. So let's go ahead, chop this up fine like this here, and we'll get that into the soup pot as well and build that carrot flavor in there. And you can go a little bit more the opposite way too. And it doesn't have to be perfect by any means here. You could have honestly just kind of shredded the carrot also, you know, whatever you may want to do. That's rapidly boiling here. It's on high, and I normally wouldn't have it on high the entire time. We're trying to maximize the flavor potential in this kind of short window we have in this class. So at this stage is where I would have normally dropped it down to a lower simmer and just left it there for maybe like an hour or so. You know, it was kind of lightly bubbling up. It wasn't like rapidly boiling, which I'm going to have kind of just keep it at. But really, again, just for time. And you can do that, but you have to really babysit the soup because you'll be burning the bottom of that pot, especially with the orzo sitting there, if not. Build this up with some white beans if you want to. Put some other flavors into here, folks. There's many other things that you could add into here. All right. So this lemon juice that we're going to add in here, most people, when they use this tool, they use it improperly. And I'll show you the proper way to do it. If you're using this tool, this little juicer here, and all you're doing is cutting this lemon in half and putting it into here, wondering, you know, you might say, oh, I'll put it this way, but how's the juice going to come out, right? It's shaped this way, that should work. Then you put it this way, and then you wonder why it doesn't work so well. So I'll show you the way you should be doing it, because this is not the way, right? I mean, it'll work, but you're still going to lose some juice and just leave it there. So what I would tell you to do is cut the lemon end off and then do it like this. Put it in how you naturally would think it should go in there like that, but now you'll be pressing it all out the side that you just cut open, right? So that's it. Simple as that, and you'll get more of the juice actually out of there. And use whatever, you know, whatever size you may need. These are pretty small, so we won't use the green one. And we'll just maybe do 3 of these because these are pretty juicy lemons also. And you have the lemon flavor coming into here also by using the lemon pepper that we put into here, which also adds some heat to this dish as well.
Vincent, you said add white beans earlier. They're pre-cooked, right?
If you want to use beans in here, I would pre-cook them, yes. Unless you're using lentils maybe, you know, lentils or split peas, the only thing I might consider even adding in here raw. But definitely if you want to pre-cook some cannellini beans or some navy beans, especially would be a good one to use in here, you know, whatever it may be, yeah. And you could do that maybe as an alternative to using the orzo, or in addition to, you know, chickpeas or something, you know, maybe adding some zucchini or broccoli in here, maybe making it more like a vegetable-based soup and not just a, you know, a chicken soup. So, you know, whatever you want to do. If you want to make this and use some cilantro in here and lime and not like the rosemary and oregano, make it more like kind of like a chipotle flavor as well. And there's kind of different directions you can take this into. All right. So we'll give that a quick stir again. Again, you can barely even see the orzo yet. And then it's like, it just swells up immediately. You say, I put too much. You could always put a little bit more, especially if you want to cook it separately and add it in at the end, which some people may want to consider doing that. It might be easier for some people to gauge that better. All right, so real quick, let me just give this a quick wipe down here. I am going to just use the opposite side of this board. Now, have a brand new cutting board. If you don't have that option, because maybe your cutting board has suction cups on the other side, because those things are dumb, get a cutting board that has both sides and simply put a wet towel underneath of it. This way it's going to stay still. Now, what I'm going to do is wash this knife off real quickly as well. Now, we're going to cut some fruit up here. So just little things like this will make a big difference. Obviously, if you don't clean your cutting board off, or I guess it's not a little thing, right? It's a big thing. Or just get a new cutting board. Now, we're going to make this strawberry ginger soup. And I brought some frozen strawberries that have been sitting in this bowl for the last couple hours, just kind of just thawing out. They're still very cold, but they're not frozen any longer, which I could have kept them frozen and made like a really slushy kind of sorbet type chilled soup, which you could do that as well. But these are still very, very cold. They're just not frozen any longer. The benefit of using frozen strawberries for this recipe is, for one, you don't have to do anything besides open the bag and just let them thaw out. There's no guesswork of, are these strawberries ripe or not? For some people, buying frozen fruit is the way to go, especially for fruit that you can't always get, maybe especially can't get ripe. Frozen mangoes, for instance, is a good one to always buy frozen. Frozen peaches, cherries, great. Now, we're going to go to that strawberry in a second. If you want to put something like mango in here, it's another great addition as opposed to using the pineapple, or maybe in addition to the pineapple. Little things like this will make it just a totally different flavor in the end. But also, especially if you're using one or the other, but if you're mixing them, just an even more enjoyable way to have that. So I'm going to show you, if you want to do a mango, we're going to go ahead and just how to pick a fresh, ripe mango. A little springiness to the skin, right? Not mushiness, but kind of springy, a little bounce back to it. Now we're going to cut the top and the bottom off like this, and we'll kind of just go with the shape of the mango here, just deep enough to remove that skin. Of course, you could also use the peeler like I was doing. I find using the knife is just a little bit faster overall to do. And just knowing how to cut the mango initially can be half the challenge for some people, because some people might try to hack into this like as if it was a pineapple and try to cut it, in half and cut a core out. You can't. You have to kind of just work around the core, that pit that's in this thing. So knowing that for some people can be half the battle, but knowing where does the pit kind of lie in there? How does it actually rest in the mango? I'll show you here right now. Now the orzo is swelling up. So the more wider sides to your mango, which is basically right here, my two sides that I'm holding, especially when I should have kind of pointed this out when it was still the whole mango, you'll notice it more. Those are the sides you're going to get more of the meat from. You can't cut halfway in, but at about a third of the way in, you go from the opposite side, about a third of the way in. If you try to cut any deeper, just a little bit deeper, I'm hitting that pit. And it feels like I'm trying to saw through the cutting board now. Just not going to really go anywhere. So you can get a little bit more from the other two sides as well, but you're not going to get that much more out of there. What you can get out of there is this mango nectar here. And if you're feeling real strong one day and you skip the gym, you can just go ahead and just squeeze all your anger out of this poor mango pit. Now, in the morning, when we cut all these fresh mangoes in the morning, that's usually about 8 mangoes that we'll do every fresh, in the morning every day. We'll usually have the servers, they'll say, oh, can you save the mango pits? So they'll be in their break just chewing on these mango pits. But this is a flavorful part of the mango. If I wasn't throwing this, it's a slippery part of the mango too. If I wasn't doing this, I would go ahead and just chewed on it and ate it. So let's put this all in the blender. So basically, I'm just going to substitute the pineapple today and use mango. I just thought it was a good alternative. I saw this really nice, ripe-looking mango back there, and I say if it looks as good as it is on the outside, it should be good to go for this soup. And just showing you that that's what cooking's all about. You don't have to follow the recipe exactly to the core. I have a pineapple I could have used.
Did you put the frozen strawberries to make it like that?
Commercially, you can buy diced strawberries. You could buy diced mango, diced pineapple commercially. You have to buy a whole 5-pound bag. You may find that at something like a Sam's Club or like Costco, though, if you're looking for that exact, Dole does make that. They call it chef-ready cuts, but that's, if you're looking for that small dice, that's what you're going to get commercially. It doesn't make a really big difference once you're blending it up, but especially if you're trying to cook that down, like we'll use these strawberries or the pineapple in the morning for the oatmeal bar that we do the cooked fruit in, right? And we'll use frozen fruit. So frozen fruit is one of the best things to do for if you're just going to cook it down, or if you're just going to blend it up. I would absolutely recommend using frozen all day long. So we have strawberries and we have one nice ripe mango in there. We're also going to use some ginger juice. And if you're looking like, where do I find ginger juice at a grocery store? You just simply make it yourself. It's not hard to make ginger juice. What you're going to do is simply take a box grater I have over here and grate the ginger on there. And if you want to use a tool like this, don't, because you'll be cleaning ginger out for the rest of your life. So use a box grater. I'm going to use that tool. I'll do that first, actually, since I pointed it out. I'm going to zest orange into here. A lot of flavor is going to come from this orange zest. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. This could be lime or lemon or tangerine zest or grapefruit zest, whatever. Lots of other things you could zest, any sort of citrus. Other things you could grate too, like Parmesan cheese with this thing, but hopefully you don't choose to do that, or just not very much of it if you did. So other things you could put in here, like lime, would be really another good addition, but that's a lot of flavor right there from that orange zest. Put zest into so many things, right? You could put just a bottle of water or into a chopped salad or into zest of orange into oatmeal is a great way to add a lot of extra flavor to it. So cut the top and the bottom off of this orange here, and then simply just go ahead and go with the shape of the orange to kind of remove that skin here. If you want to use clementines or something like that, it will be even easier to do this with. You don't even probably even need to use a knife. This is how we do this orange in the morning. Once you have the whole entire thing peeled, we simply kind of cut around the core of it. Okay, now I'll show you real quick. We're just going to peel one more, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. A true Supreme would be going in between each segment to remove that segment, but we're going to not do that here because you'll lose some of that fibrous part, and you're going to lose a lot of the actual orange as well. So what we'll do here is we'll actually cut this around the core, especially fingers crossed you had a seedless orange, which this one is, and there you go. It's even easier to just kind of cut around the core and retain all that fibrous part of the orange, and we're going to chop that all right into there. Just not the core of it, just the outer parts. All right. If you want to use raspberry in here as opposed to using the strawberry in here, that would be another great alternative. There's many different avenues you could take this in. So with the ginger is very, very stringy, right? So what we're going to do here is not use any of that stringiness of the ginger, just use the flavor of the ginger by taking this on the box grater, skin and all, and just grating it. This is on the feather shred of the box grater. You can put ginger juice into a bottle of water, or you can put ginger juice into anything you can imagine, and it really enhances the flavor, right? And it's a lot of juice coming out, just that little bit of ginger here. So you throw away the rest, right? Most of the flavor of the ginger without all that juice as well. So we're going to take just the leaves of some mint, not very much. You don't need very much. You're not looking to make this like the star of the dish here. You're looking just to kind of make this little enhancement at the end to not really shine too broad, because mint is very powerful, and that's probably going to be more than enough. Make sure you get just the leaves and no stems in there. All right, so blend this up smooth and creamy. We have one little mint leaf that got stuck. And I'll just keep letting this blend up. All right, so we're going to take some cornstarch, mix the cornstarch with cold water, and what you're going to do is make a cornstarch slurry. And a cornstarch slurry is what you need to do before you use cornstarch. If you don't do this and you just say, "I'll just whatever, Chef Vince, I'm going to pour it right into my pot," you're going to make all those white lumps set up, and you'll have all these white lumps in your pot. So make sure you make a slurry, which is just mixing it with cold water. We use cornstarch here for anything that you're trying to thicken that's hot. So this soup is a great example. A sauce, whatever it may be. If you're trying to use cornstarch just enough liquid to where it breaks apart into this slurry here. You have no lumps left in there. And while you're using cornstarch, whatever you're adding it to should be at a rolling boil. So the cornstarch naturally comes to its maximum thickening power at that stage. If it was just at a light simmer, it wouldn't come to that maximum thickening power, and you may be adding too much, because if it does eventually come to a boil, well, you might just make it overly thick. We're not looking to make this real thick. We're looking to just add a little bit more of that body to the broth, but not make it overly thick by any means. Just water, cold water, just enough to where it breaks apart. And that's the thing, if you put too much water in here, you might as well just pour water in here, because all you're doing is just diluting this and essentially just putting too much water into here if you're putting too much water into the cornstarch slurry itself. So we're going to pull this thyme out here, if I can find it. Here it is. Most of the leaves have already became falling off there, started to fall off. We're going to go ahead and cook that longer. Normally, this has only been cooking for 40 minutes in here. Normally we do this maybe 2 hours or so. We're trying to find the rest of the bay leaves. We found 2 more here. I think we tried about 5 in here or so. So there's 1 more. People can get these things caught in their throat. So I always like to usually use the nice big broad bay leaf. So anything, if it did get somebody's bowl, they're more likely to see it, not these little small specks and crumbles of bay leaf, because they don't soften up. So you want to make sure you're trying to pull these out at the end, which is what I'm looking for here. I thought I had 1 more. All right, someone's going to get a surprise of a bay leaf. All right, so this is basically done. We're going to go ahead, if you want to, finish this with some fresh herbs, like some more parsley or some chives or some scallions, whatever it may be. We'll serve out this lemon chicken orzo soup. There's the bay leaf. As soon as I stirred it up, found the last one. Now these containers could go into the freezer. Now these are just disposable containers. I would not advise you to do this, but you could. What I would suggest getting is more of a container that I always recommend to people. There's a brand called Ready Tainer. 1 more bay leaf. Ready Tainer Extreme Freeze makes things that look like little deli takeout containers you get at a grocery store. But they're very effective because they're reusable, they're dishwasher safe, they're freezer safe, they're microwavable if you wanted to microwave them, but you can portion right into them. They look like just plastic containers, but they can take the heat of a hot soup and allow this to be portioned out like I'm doing here now. You'd fill it up all the way to the top, you put a lid on there about maybe 90 minutes later, you label it, and now you have your frozen portioned out soup the next day. So this is something you can always kind of have on hand and not be, always stressing about what soups do I want to eat tonight? I don't feel like making anything. Then you go, whatever it may be. It could be a dressing, a soup, a sauce. A lot of things can be frozen and portioned out just like I'm doing here right now. A very easy and effective way to just have a lot of things on hand. And like I said, if you want to use other vegetables in here, additional vegetables in here, maybe you want to use ground turkey in here perhaps. You can try to find ditalini pasta, whole wheat. It is very hard to find, but it's a nice small shaped pasta, kind of similar to using orzo in a soup like this. You can also use something like angel hair, whole wheat, and kind of just break it up in small pieces if you can't find the orzo. If you're looking for like that actual small pieces of pasta, because that's, will swell up. And the longer pasta cooks in this broth, it will start swelling up more and more and more.
How do you stay so thin being around food all day?
I'm around healthy food all day.
Huh?
I'm around healthy food all day.
You don't see many thin chefs.
Well, you don't see many healthy chefs. I'm just kidding. No, look, most chefs are going to be like, hey, how much butter and cream can I fit in this pot to make it to where that's when people put that spoon in their mouth, it hits on their palate, it coats their palate in fat and salt. And, I can tell you this firsthand because my wife is a pastry chef and I see things that she makes, and it's like she's the yin to my yang, but when you eat that way, I mean, if you eat, these unhealthy things, butter, that's bad. Buttercream, you just whipped a bunch of sugar into it. You made it even worse. So it can be very, tempting to have these bad things. But once you realize how bad they are for you, you just have to really, understand that, is it really worth it, right? So, all right. So we have our soups here. I guess we made a little bit of our mess here, so we'll get this portioned out for you. We're going to go ahead and portion this out real quickly here as well. You'll see that this is still kind of slushy, kind of frozen, because those strawberries were still kind of frozen. And we'll pour a little bit into these here. And this will cool your palate down if the soup was too hot, which I assure you it probably will be. And I hope you folks enjoyed the class. This evening we're going to have a pan-seared corvina. This will be an easier way where we don't make such of a mess here. We'll do it a smaller portion, a little faster way too. We have a pan-seared corvina with a lemon saffron cream sauce tonight. So if you like saffron, you'll certainly like this sauce. And of course, if you don't, or you're not sure, ask for the sauce on the side, right? That's always simple request. We can always accommodate that. If you'd like to have an alternative protein tonight as opposed to the corvina, we do always have a chicken or a salmon option as an alternative for lunch or for dinner. We don't advise you to always have that option. Try to order what we have in the menu. Tomorrow we will have some pan-seared scallops. So, we always try to give you a good variety throughout the week. This Friday we'll try to bring in halibut or maybe mahi-mahi or wahoo or something. We always put our catch of the day on the menu, so kind of way we can get whatever they have freshest coming in that day.
Use that pan for everything when you like.
We do, yeah, correct, yep. It's a good all across, the board, whatever you want to use it for. It works great. So here we have our little portions of our strawberry ginger soup. We used mango instead of pineapple today. Our lemon chicken orzo soup. I'm going to get some service in here, folks, and we'll portions out for you. Again, my name is Vince. Thanks for coming in, and enjoy. Give me 1 second.